Welcome to episode 7 of the Koji Podcast. I'm joined here by my brother Joshua, and the topic for today is uprooting vices and planting virtues. And these talks were given by Father Adrian. He wrote these talks for the Brotherhood of St. Dismas, which I'm a part of, and I'm doing a series of these 10 talks for this podcast. So let's get into it. We're going to be going through each paragraph, and after we finish a paragraph, then we try to explain to the best of our ability. Learning to resist sin and temptation is a fundamental lesson in the Christian spiritual life, but it is not enough. When after years of spiritual neglect, we form the resolution to change our lives, we begin by examining the state of our souls. We are like gardeners who intend to plant on land that has been left unattended for years. We find our souls covered with the weeds of bad habits that have sent down deep roots in our character. Unless we remove these weeds, the good flowers and fruits we intend to sow will have little chance of growing or bearing fruit. A serious program of Christian life must include a plan to cultivate the virtues while eliminating the evil habits that have grown up. So we're here introducing the subject of, uprooting vices and planting virtues. So it's saying that after many years of neglecting, God and our spiritual life, and allowing ourselves to have more vices and be more accustomed to sinning and to not be, performing virtues, we have to learn about what a vice is and virtue is and how we could replace the vices with virtues in our struggle in the spiritual life. Now we're going to be talking about the vices. Let us begin by examining the vices, those bad habits, which are so often found deeply ingrained in our characters, and which we strive to root out. Having discussed in the last conference the nature of the struggle against sin and temptation, it will be enough here to list the vices, so that we may more easily recognize them, and identify the virtues through which we can oppose them. So what it was saying right here is that we gotta recognize what are the vices in our life. By learning our catechism, learning what are sins and what are not sins, so we know what we're supposed to be trying to get rid of in the first place. Because if we don't even know what we're trying to fight, then we can't even continue in our spiritual life. And we got to also understand what will help us to fight those vices. So let's continue. Catholic tradition, going back as far as Saint Gregory the Great, lists 7 vices in relation to the 7 capital sins: pride, avarice, envy, wrath, lust, gluttony, and sloth. They are called capital sins, from the Latin word caput, meaning head, because they are the heads from which a multitude of other vices spring. St. Thomas Aquinas defines as the following, quoted from a tour of the Summa: these are the 7 main sins from which all other sins and vices come from. So what is pride? Pride disposes a man to make himself more than he is. Like Pharaoh in Moses, remember? Pharaoh, he defied God's orders when God asked Moses to tell Pharaoh, let my people go. Remember when he told Pharaoh, let my people go? Well, Pharaoh did not want to let the people go, even though God was sending torments and, plagues and, a whole bunch of different things, fire from the sky, locusts, insects, infestations, all those things. And Pharaoh still did not want to let the Hebrew people go because he wanted to be higher than God. He wanted to be the one.
No, I don't think that was the reason. I think he just didn't think that God was real.
No, here's the thing. If God wasn't real, then how would all these things be happening? How would Moses know?
Oh.
He knew God was real because of all these signs. He was just so prideful because as Pharaoh, he was like a god. He thinks he's a god. He wants to be higher than God is. But he's not. He's just human. He was created by God.
Yeah.
So therefore he's lower than God. And so that's an example of pride. Now, covetousness is an inordinate love of possessing. Like in... Remember? We'll just give an example from Christmas Carol.
Possessing.
Greed.
Oh, okay. So Ebenezer was so overcome by his greed and lust for money that he turned away his own fiance or whatever.
Yeah, fiance. Yeah, because he had because when you become a fiance, you promise that you're gonna marry this person.
Yeah. But then he turned down the marriage and because he wanted money.
Yeah, he'd rather advance more and more into his lust of money than to get married to this girl. And it doesn't only need to be of money.
Materialism.
But yeah, just materialism. It could be owning a property or like material. Being materialistic. So that's an example of covetousness. Envy is sorrow or sadness over another's good.
Yeah.
Because that good is regarded as something withheld or taken away from the envious person's excellence or reputation. To understand it more, we could, go to two children.
Yeah.
You see your neighbor or your friend, he has a toy, an awesome remote control drone or a car or something like that, and you really want it. But you want it so much that even hurts you. It hurts you that they have it instead of you, even though it's theirs. And you would even
steal it.
Yeah, you would even probably steal it for them. You have these thoughts of I wish I could just go and steal it for him so it could be mine. Okay, now anger. Now this is probably like one of the most well-known vices out there.
I feel like it's impossible for anyone to not know anger. What anger is, at least.
But anger, though it can be lawful, is more often a striking back with unjustified desire for revenge at someone or something that has hurt one's self-esteem. So if you notice, it says right here, anger, though it can be lawful. So
so it means like if you have just anger. For example, if you're super angry at like someone desecrating the Holy Eucharist, say for example, that's a very good reason to be angry for someone to desecrate the Holy Eucharist.
Like Jesus, where he got mad at the tax collectors and the people,
the merchants.
Yeah, inside that they were inside in Jerusalem in the temple.
And they were like selling stuff, and they were like, giving this and then buying that.
Well, yeah, they made it that when Jesus saw that, he became so angry, he started even flipping out tables, and he got a rope, or a cord, and he started hitting things with it, because he knew this place is a holy place. His Father, God, is there, and there are people who are cheating other people there, who are selling things inside a temple, inside a church, and that's a very sinful thing to do. They're desecrating the temple, and that was that was just anger from Jesus.
See, even Jesus gets it.
Well, there's a difference between just anger and just anger. So it says right here, it's a striking back with unjustified desire for revenge at someone or something that has hurt one's self-esteem.
Okay, so like let's say, I think a good way to put it is maybe,
let's say you beat me at a game. Just because you beat me at a game doesn't give me the right to go and beat you up.
Yeah.
With my fists. And
I feel like
that's an overreaction. Just because I feel embarrassed by you beating me in a game. So that would not be right. That's unjust. So we have to control that unjust anger and, keep it under check. So we have to control that unjust anger. And lust. Lust is the vice of indulging in unlawful sexual pleasures. And we all know what this is. Lust, all these sins, if you notice, it all starts in the mind. And that's why it's the...
Okay.
Wait. That's why it's the capital sins, because it starts at the mind with lust. You're thinking, an unholy thought of somebody else. Thinking, bad things, of sexual things. And we all know it's a sin. We just talked about in the last podcast how a sin of thought can be very grave. Remember?
So... And... well, he's right, because lust, okay, like you said, it starts in the mind, right? It's just a thought, right? Just a thought, right? So that means, like, a thought, just like a little thought, is able to get in your mind easily. sort of like a little parasite or something.
Yeah.
And
So
then-
like let's say, okay, just to make it PG, because I don't want.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm thinking about an Oreo. Let's say for some reason, thinking of an Oreo that you see right there, but I'm thinking about it. Oh, the Oreo it has a it has a crunchy side and the creamy side. Oh, it's so good. But then I'm like,
Oh my gosh, the milk.
but it starts in the
Chips.
thought before you actually go and eat the Oreo.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, it's like
So that's why you gotta stop it right there. When it hits your mind, you're like, no. My mom said I can't eat this cookie yet, so I'm not gonna go and eat that cookie. I'm not gonna eat that
mommy
Oreo.
told me.
Even how good it is, I'm not gonna eat it yet.
It's like like I said, like a parasite. How it goes in. If you don't get rid of it at first, then it multiplies and it multiplies and it multiplies until it's like a huge thing.
All right, next capital sin. Gluttony is excess in eating and drinking. It is an immoderate indulgence in the delights of the palate. Gluttony is therefore inordinate, therefore unreasonable, therefore an evil.
Okay, so basically what it's saying that gluttony is like if you eat more than you have to, because we all have to eat, we all have to drink, right? We're all thirsty and hungry. The thing is, if you're satisfied, if you're already full, but you love how the food tastes, and you eat a whole bunch more, that's gluttony, because you're eating more than you have to.
Well, just an immoderate amount of food.
Yeah.
It's like I think Saint Jerome. I'm not sure. He gave this analogy or example, and he said if a man who has a plate of food cannot even sacrifice one thing from that meal, is not any better than a pig, because he can't even control that one thing. To sacrifice that one thing from that meal.
Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, it doesn't mean exactly for every single meal or whatever, but just saying like we have to be able to control our passions for eating and drinking, especially for drinking, because if you're drinking too much, some beer, you get drunk, that's an excess in drinking. And when you get drunk, it's a mortal sin which takes you out of the state of grace.
Okay, the reason why getting drunk is a mortal sin is because you have no control of your actions. And the reason why you have no control over your actions is because you drink too much. So therefore it's your fault.
You chose to get rid of your free will. And that's one of the greatest gifts that God has given us, which is free will. We're able to freely choose with our reason whether we're going to do something or not.
Yeah.
Now, sloth. Sloth is sluggishness of mind which neglects to begin the good. It is a kind of oppressive sorrow which so weighs on a person's mind that he chooses to do nothing. Sloth is spiritual laziness.
Okay. So sloth, this is for a lot. I think this should be a problem for a lot of people, because they get like depressed, and like they don't want to do anything. And it's just like they're not going out there evangelizing. They're not praying the rosary. They're just sleeping in all day.
Well, yeah, just not only just evangelizing, but just doing the things you need to do every day. That's what it says right here. Sloth is sluggishness of mind, which neglects to begin the good. So all these 7 capital sins are the roots from which other vices spring. We combat and eventually eliminate them by means of their opposite virtues. So humility opposes pride, generosity opposes greed, chastity opposes lust, and meekness opposes anger. Temperance opposes gluttony, kindness opposes envy, perseverance opposes sloth.
Humility counters pride, which is the overestimation of one's self-worth. Humility is a virtue which restrains a man lest he be immoderate in his striving to reach high goals. It is based on the recognition of one's real worth in relation to God and one's fellow man. It is the indispensable foundation of all other virtues. Okay. Like I said right here, it is based on the recognition of one's real worth in relation to God and one's fellow man. Okay, it's like comparison of God and man. It's like how humility helps you to recognize what is your place. What is like, are you higher than God or are you lower than God, or are you on the same level? You're lower than God.
Well, it's like I said about Pharaoh. Remember when I was talking about pride? Pharaoh, he didn't want to really admit that, even though he didn't say it outwardly, he didn't want to admit that he's lower than God.
Yeah.
Even with such a high power, he was still lower than God. Although he has a lot of power and, people that obey him for every word he says, he's still lower than God because he was created by God.
Yeah.
He was created by God. God has obviously much more power than Pharaoh ever did. And really, just to combat that pride, all he had to do was just let the people go.
Yeah.
Just by letting the people go, in when Moses was asking him to, he would have practiced humility. Just right there. So now, generosity. Generosity opposes greed, the sin of immoderate desire for earthly things. Generosity is focused not merely on the appropriate concern regarding one's earthly things, but furthermore on generosity and willingness to give freely and without request for commendation.
So like generosity is like giving. It's more of like giving away things even though you don't have to. Like giving them out of pure, like a pure gift. You're not expecting anything in return. You just give. You give to the poor. You give to the people. You give to the people.
But the reason why it opposes greed in the first place is also because not only are you moderate in your desire for earthly things, but like you said, you're giving out of your own free will. You're giving to people, and without them giving you back anything. That's being generous, and that's how you combat greed with generosity. So remember, all these virtues I'm listing, humility and generosity, those the ones I'm listing right now, there's 7. So 7 capital sins, there's 7 virtues which will oppose those capital sins. So to combat it and defeat it.
Chastity is the counter virtue to the sin of lust. Through chastity, the passions related to the sexual drive are held in control and are kept in alignment with right reason. How do we explain this one?
Well, all you gotta say is, look, every single time you're having a temptation to do something that is bad, we already know which things are bad. Sinful thoughts, sinful actions with our bodies or with other people. Doing the marital act with people who are not married to us, that's a sin. We know. So just the fact of not following what our, lustful desires, when we're tempted, that's practicing the virtue of chastity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
technically chastity is like basically the virtue that helps you to say no.
Yeah. Meekness is the virtue which moderates anger. It seeks an appropriate resolution to conflicts and
Give
forgive
and show
mercy.
Okay, so meekness. Okay, what it means by meek, it doesn't. I mean, when I first heard this word and this virtue, I thought, does it mean shy or whatever, or just in the corner meekness? No, it doesn't. What meekness means is this is actually a really hard virtue to attain.
Like, for example, to be meek doesn't mean to be like it doesn't mean to be shy and small and weak. What meek means is that, for example, if you're a king, you have great power, more power than anybody else in the world, but you still choose to not
take over it.
Conquer their land.
Yeah.
Even though you have that strength, you have all all the power to conquer lands, to do all that, you choose not to. And that's true power. That's true strength.
Yeah.
To be able to, stop yourself even though you have so much power.
You have the whole world at your fingertips, so you're just like.
But to be able to show mercy, because through their mercy, they show that they have much more power, and that gives them more respect as well. Because anger is a very strong feeling. Very strong feeling.
Yeah, because I think anger is probably like one of the strongest feelings. Well, usually depending, but like, you're just super angry at this guy, but you somehow, for some reason, choose not to kill him,
or just do something bad to him.
Do something bad to him. It's like that's a big act of meekness. So
abstinence. Abstinence counters the sin of gluttony, which is overindulgence, especially in food or drink. It is essentially a keeping away or refraining entirely or in some degree from anything. Specifically, as we employ the term here, abstinence is a reduction in the use of food or drink. So, obviously, we can't get rid of food or drink,
Yeah.
for drinking. Obviously, I mean, we could just not drink alcohol or whatever like that, but you know, alcohol in itself is not bad.
No, I mean,
Because some people want to, exaggerate that. It's super bad. We should never.
to even take a sip of alcohol.
Yeah, but it's only a sin if you
If you take it to the limit.
If you overindulge yourself. So
because if you drink at least like say one glass of wine, that's okay as long as you're not drunk, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and so you gotta be able to abstain. So it's saying here sometimes that, okay, let's say you're an alcoholic, okay? At first, you're gonna have to keep yourself completely away from drinking for a while, just to get, because when you have a lot of that alcohol in yourself and you have that habit of drinking a lot, it's hard for you if you just, try to drink a little bit. You gotta just take it out of your life for a while.
Yeah.
And once, after a while, you slowly bring it, in more and more,
Yeah.
So abstinence is to moderate food and drink.
Kindness, or brotherly love, or love for one's neighbor, is the virtue which counters the sin of envy. Envy, in contradiction to God's law of love, is manifest in the person's sorrow and distress over the good fortune of another person. Conservatively, kindness and brotherly love is manifest in the unproduced, compassionate and charitable concern for others. Okay, kindness, as I just said, is the counter virtue for envy. So kindness is feeling happy over another person's good fortune, over like something good, something else good. You're like, you feel happy with that person. You're like, congratulations, man! Like, that's so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, like
Yeah, because envy really is just like being envious just cause unnecessary pain for yourself.
Yeah.
Like it really doesn't matter whether they had that or not, because and with kindness, in fact, we get a joy, out of somebody else's, well-being or so really virtues just make us do things that are irrational. It's irrational to be angry at them. We just cause ourselves more pain. Perseverance. Perseverance is opposed to sloth. It is the virtue which disposes a person to hold steadily to a good purpose, keeping the end steadily in view, despite delays, fatigue, and temptations to indifference.
Okay, perseverance. Okay, persevere. Counter virtue of sloth/laziness. Like it gives this is a virtue that helps you to keep on going. Like from that Rocky movie, he says it's not about how much you can hit, it's about how much you can get hit and keep on going and keep on moving, no matter what they throw at you.
Yeah, so because a lot of times it's like, oh, that's too hard. I'm just gonna lay down here. So you gotta go and that extra mile.
End what you started.
Yeah, and just by saying no to laziness, by saying yes to doing something that's good, you combat sloth. All right, this was part 1 of 2 of the third talk. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please share this podcast because we want to reach more people, to evangelize more. So, we would really appreciate if you please shared this podcast, and have a blessed weekend.
God bless you.